Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions of the thing. This show is made possible entirely by the support of our patrons over at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. So if you like the show and you can support us over there, we would love it and appreciate it. But if you can't, no big deal. The fact that you're listening is awesome. And of course, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Joining me today, we have a supersized showing here to talk about WandaVision. Not only do we have Cameron Abbott and Frank Bazzani kind of making their returns to the show. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Doing
Hey,
good.
what's going on, nerds?
What is going on? But we are also joined by Josh Silverman of the soon-to-launch Bear Punch Media. How you doing, Josh?
Doing all right. Doing all right.
Excellent. And Mario Rivera of the recently launched Point in Progress. How you doing, Mario?
I am good. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for allowing me to talk MCU. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
You two in particular, when I did like the mid-season kind of check-in episode, shortly after that, you, Mario, tweeted out will I be on that nerdy sites to talk about WandaVision? I was like, I'm gonna lock that away, and the plan at that point was basically like, I'm gonna do a return to the series when it's now wrapped up, and I recorded something with Josh recently, and afterwards we got to talking about WandaVision a little bit, and I was like, well, I will try and get you on that supersized episode as well. And Frank was originally supposed to be on the last WandaVision with me, but that was right when his computer crashed, so it's been a while since we've had him on any of that nerdy site content. Sorry, Josh, what were you going to say?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, cool. Well, yeah, episode is going to be all about WandaVision now that the series has wrapped. Everybody doing their Wanda hands, their Scarlet Witch hands.
I got my Wanda red going in the background.
I see that. Well done. Using those hue lights and all that fun stuff. So why did we pick this? Of course, this is the new hotness. The most buzzed thing, the thing that has crashed Disney Plus a couple times over the last few weeks, as everybody kind of clamors to see it. A little bit of the history lesson. Some of this is going to be repeat from the episode a few weeks ago, where I kind of did the check-in halfway through the season, but originally released here January 15th through March 5th, 2021. Other notable releases of this era, we had Cobra Kai Season 3 launching on January 1st on Netflix, Batwoman Season 2 launched on the CW on January 17th, and Pixar Popcorn Season 1 launched on January 22nd on Disney+. Runtime of 30 to 40 minutes per episode, usually. A little bit, some a little bit less. This finale was a little bit longer. And in the Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline of things, this was the first new MCU content after the long drought we had of 2020, because 2020 sucked in pretty much all fronts. But it is also the first Disney Plus MCU show, and it falls in the timeline between Spider-Man Far From Home, which came out July 2nd, 2019, and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which will be launching in 2 weeks as of recording, March 19th, aka my birthday, and that it's going to run through April 23rd of 2021. And then also, tentatively, we still have Black Widow planned for a May 7th launch. I don't think that's been pushed as of us sitting down and talking about it. The roll
You
call...
gotta imagine that they will, though, won't they?
I mean, everybody seems to be really excited about things coming up, so who knows what they're going to do. I imagine it'll probably get pushed at least a couple months, but I don't know. The roll call, who's who of the show here, you had Matt Shackman doing kind of a very rare for television thing, directing every episode of the show, who previously had done a couple series that I really appreciate. He had directed an episode of Chuck, i.e. Chuck versus the Subway, and then he had also directed a couple episodes of Game of Thrones, but his most prevalent directing prior to this was probably It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he had done 43 episodes. And then Jack Schaefer was the head writer of this project, and kind of showrunner. Jacqueline Schaefer, having previously worked on Olaf's Frozen Adventure, The Hustle, which was the gender-swapped Dirty Rotten Scoundrels movie from a couple years back with Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson, and she's also credited for the upcoming Black Widow story. Starring, you have, of course, Elizabeth Olsen here playing Wanda Maximoff, who kind of made her breakout in Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. as well as the internet has weirdly like only just now discovered, she is the younger sister of the Olsen twins, which I've known for forever. I don't know why this was like news to people like just now, but whatever. Yeah.
I want to say it was episode 5 or 6. I just made a throwaway comment because she looked super like the Olsen twins, like I don't know, more Olsen-y than usual in that episode. And I pointed, and maybe that was actually the Full House episode, and I threw that comment out to my wife, who had to pause the show for 15 minutes to collect herself because she could not stop laughing. And I was like, "How do you not?"
I think you tweeted something to that effect out, and it reminded me. I remember back around like early MCU days. Was also like Hunger Games time. I remember going to see Hunger Games with a friend of mine who I also saw a lot of those early MCU movies with, and I remember her saying, "That guy looks a lot like Thor," and I was like, "You mean Liam Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth's brother? Weird." And she was just like, "Well, I'm never gonna live that down." So that was a very fun little reminiscent memory as well.
Weird. I don't understand it. It's like, what if I told you Dakota Fanning and Elle Fanning siblings?
Right, yeah. Elizabeth Olsen has been playing Wanda since the post-credits tag of Captain America: The Winter Soldier, but really kind of made her debut as Disney Plus was really wanting everybody to check out in Age of Ultron. She also was notably in Godzilla, where she played kind of the married wife to her brother character from since her and Pietro had like that summer of we're brothers or brother and sister in one movie and married in this other one. And she will next be seen in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Of course, you also have Paul Bettany here playing Vision, who I remember growing up and loving in A Knight's Tale. As well as he played Silas in The Da Vinci Code, and he has been Jarvis since the original Iron Man film, Vision since Avengers: Age of Ultron. He was also in Solo: A Star Wars Story, where I believe he was it was supposed to be Kenneth Williams, I believe, from The Wire, and then he couldn't do reshoots, so they brought in Paul Bettany to kind of replace that role in Solo. Catherine Hahn here playing Agnes, a.k.a. Agatha Harkness. It was Agatha all along. Made her debut in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Did some early stuff in Anchorman. I really enjoyed her recurring bit in Parks and Rec, as well as she had a wonderful turn in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and she had a good run on the series Mrs. Fletcher as well. Teyonah Parris playing Geraldine, later Monica Rambeau. I remember her early work in Mad Men, where she played Dawn, a.k.a. Draper's assistant when he was ready to kind of revolutionize into the 60s and hire a black assistant. She also had a good run on Survivor's Remorse and will be in the, I believe it's already been shot and filmed and ready to go, just hasn't been released, Candyman reboot that Jordan Peele is working on, as well as the eventual teases that we get in the finale here of Captain Marvel 2, as well as probably Secret Wars. And then a couple others that I pulled in here. Josh Stamberg here playing Director Haywood. Since he's debuted on the show, I've been I recognize this guy, but I don't know from what. And re-going through his IMDb today, it was Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip.
I spent.
Oh my gosh!
I spent the entire season trying to figure out why I know his face.
Yep.
And the moment I just glanced over and saw Studio 60, I was like, that took me back.
Yeah.
Is that the Matthew Perry show about?
Yeah,
doing
the
SNL Matthew Perry show.
It came out the
It's
same
in LA
time as
instead of
30
New York.
Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the alternative, slightly darker feel, like a little zany version.
Yeah,
30 Rock.
It's like, hey, what if we actually talk about what it's actually like to work on the show?
Yeah.
Rather than 30 Rock, which is a parody of working on the show.
It was Aaron Sorkin thinking he could write SNL and then could not write SNL because he just failed miserably on the sketch comedy portions of that show. And so
everything else about it was great, though.
Yeah, by the end of the
solid.
season, they go into stuff that would have not been at all out of place on The West Wing, but they're doing it they're talking about hostage negotiation situations on a show that's ostensibly an LA SNL. And it was wild. So he was on that show as one of the writers alongside Matthew Perry kind of thing.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah. Making their return to the MCU, you have Randall Park as FBI agent Jimmy Woo, who of course made his debut in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Returns here, having finally picked up those magic skills. And then he also has he was also in what was the Netflix
Would You Be My
one?
Maybe?
Would You Be My Maybe? Yeah, and Fresh Off the Boat. Kat Dennings makes her return as now Dr. Darcy Lewis after her run-ins with Thor and Thor: The Dark World. A lot of people, I remember seeing this like pop up when it was like, oh, if Darcy goes into the Hex, is she going to be her character from Two Broke Girls? And I was like, I highly doubt that. It'd be weird and cool, but no, that's not going to happen. But she also had, she is no stranger to the sitcom world. Evan Peters, aka Pietro, aka Fietro, aka Ralph Boner.
Ralph.
Ralph Boner.
That one got me, honestly. That one got me.
Of
That one got
course,
me so hard.
was very much buzzed because he was potentially the crossover, the multiverse crossover, having played X-Men's Quicksilver character. And then I just want to shout out Deborah Jo Rupp, playing Mrs. Hart in that first episode, of course, from that 70s show, and has got to have like one of the best agents because she's like credited in every episode, even though she's only in like 2 or 3 of them.
And she has no lines other than the first and the last episode.
Exactly, yeah. She was very much like
She's the most powerful lines, too.
third billing whenever Evan Peters wasn't on the show, and I was just like, how did you like? Shout out to your agent for pulling that off.
Doesn't
She's gotta have-
Mr. Hart also get like billing not like that not that high, but he's billed almost every episode. He's in only the first one.
No, he never in the Please Stand By credits. He never kind of
Okay,
makes
I
his
read
return.
some Easter egg thing that said that he was like listed in, but I didn't pay enough attention.
Yeah. And then this is one I shouted out in the last run, but I want to include it here again. Ithamar Enriquez playing Commercial Man there. I just have a personal connection to him because we were both part of the same sketch comedy / improv circle at ASU. He was a few years ahead of me, but my freshman year at ASU, he came through town. He was working with Second City at that point, and Second City and Far Side Comedy Hour did like a collaboration show at the Tempe Improv in town. So I met him there and like went out and partied with him afterwards. So every time I see him pop up in things now, including a series of Unfortunate Events, the Netflix one, he's in that. It's just fun to see him pop up, and so he plays Commercial Man across the series here.
And to surprise nobody, Trevor did sketch comedy in college.
I was never actually in the troupe. I wrote sketches for them, and I was basically their tech person, their TD, running sound and lights for a year and a half. I don't remember. But I worked very closely with them. It was a weekly sketch show, a la an SNL type thing, and it was a ton of fun. But yeah, I never got cast. I never did well enough in the auditions that they brought me on, but I would occasionally kind of make little cameo pop on appearances and stuff like that. Fun times. Some trivia here for the overall series. The series' working title was Big Red. This is also one of the movies playing on the movie theater when Wanda creates the Hex in episode 8 in a double feature alongside Kidnapped. A la Big Red has kidnapped all of these people in Westview. Wanda's voice, saying previously on WandaVision at the beginning of each episode, gets progressively less cheerful each time, presumably as we are getting closer and closer to her confronting the reality of the situation. And then this was certainly more so prevalent in the opening half of the series, but each episode mimics the look and feel of a specific decade of American television sitcoms. First episode from the 50s being inspired by Dick Van Dyke and I Love Lucy. The second show from the 60s inspired by Bewitch and I Dream of Jeannie. Third from the 70s being The Brady Bunch and The Partridge Family. Then we had kind of the deviation outside the Hex, but then we came back in the 5th episode with 80s themed stuff, i.e. Family Ties, Growing Pains, even a little bit of Full House. And then the 6th episode we got to the 90s/2000s with a Malcolm in the Middle reference. And then the 7th episode was very Modern Family docu-comedy style of the 2010s, i.e. your Modern Family, your Office, all that kind of stuff. And then the reveal of Agnes was, of course, very heavily influenced by The Munsters. And then lastly, I pulled in here that we have a slight retcon of Wanda and Pietro's origin, which in Age of Ultron's, if you actually went back and rewatched that movie, as Disney Plus recommended, Pietro talks about Their family was sitting down to dinner when the bomb goes off, and it blew up like 2 floors down, and the parents went to check and never returned, basically. And then the second bomb is the one that, doesn't go off, so we still get that second bomb doesn't go off, but instead of family sitting down to dinner, we have family sitting down for American sitcom English night. And presumably the parents just die right immediately in that first strike. So what did we think of the series as a whole? I will throw it to our guests first. Mario, what were your thoughts here of WandaVision?
WandaVision did what I thought was impossible in terms of me wanting a show in the MCU based on literally everything I've ever watched as a kid growing up. I am the quintessential Nick at Night kid.
Yeah.
Hey, me too.
Same.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I
Every
think there's a 5-person panel of those kids.
Yeah, where I would travel from obviously the cartoons and then immediately right into Nick at Night, where I Love Lucy will play, or Dick Van Dyke was there for sure, but then there was things like I Dream of a Genie, Bewitched, like the early years before it started turning into the the George Lopez show.
Well, before literally time went on and what was considered a classic TV show suddenly changed.
Yeah, I
And
remember
then it was like Home Improvement and like Full House.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air going to Nick at
Oh
Night.
my
I remember
God,
being like,
yes.
oh my God,
I'm never
old.
watching this again.
It's like past my prime at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, just seeing all them and being like every week, like I'm excited because I know what this is. I know what this refers to, even though it's like I assume a lot of kids today are like, I don't know any of this crap. Specifically, even later. Well, it's not even close. But what I love also is even like you get to the 90s and it's Malcolm in the Middle, and it's perfect Malcolm in the Middle for the most part. Like, it's so good, especially the camera pans, the characters talking to the camera. Like they nailed every single aspect about what is true to those shows at those time frames, while splintering in this mystery aspect and the fact that you literally feel the world falling apart in certain aspects into where it all culminates until later in the episode. As a show, very centered on, and it's honestly, I'm going to compare it a little bit to the video game The Last of Us. Not a lot, but a game series about grief, specifically Last of Us 2, and how they approach it in the different ways that they go about it. Both characters, Ellie, the character in Last of Us 2, and then even also I would say in Wanda, do very damaging things to the people around them and the people, that to complete strangers for the most part. Now, how it resolves, do I think it's 100% perfect on how they go about the resolution there? No, but in terms of the character growth and the character journey between even fake Vision or obviously with Wanda and her realizing what she's doing, especially in the scene when Agnes is waking everybody up and everyone's just like freaking out at her.
Yeah, like please just kill us. If you're not going to let us go, just kill us. That was like horrifying. Yeah, again,
that was horrifying. Yeah, shout out to her. That line was like, oh my God. And then she literally does. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I think overall, I as a week-to-week experience with everything that we've gone through in terms of a year of absolute nothingness with the MCU to be filled every week, and it's not stopping, guys. We got stuff coming up very shortly, very, very fast. Even a documentary for a huge nerd like me who loves watching behind the scenes stuff, so I'm excited about that too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I adored majority of my time every second. The only thing that I would say that I disliked, and we'll talk about it more, is the setup of Evan Peters and the payoff with Evan Peters is very much in how I understand a lot of people had problems with Iron Man 3 with the Mandarin and how they felt about that. And I feel this is very, very close. I'll accept it, but you knew what you were doing, Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
You knew what you were doing.
Yeah, that was a very deliberate tease to all of the fan theories that like blew up out of it. And I love that. I also appreciate it. I went back and checked because I was curious, like, had the necklace been there all along? And it was. Like, I went back and from his first appearance, every other time he appears, even when he like goes into like the classic Quicksilver attire in the Halloween episode, he's still got that necklace there, kind of being like, oh, that's what's giving him his powers. Okay, so at least like there was good continuity behind that reveal. But yeah, I thought that was kind of like going up to the ledge and then being like, just kidding, we're not going there yet.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah,
cool. How about you, Josh?
I mean, I think, much like Mario, and I think like everyone else here, this felt like a show tailor-made for me. Again, Nick at Night Kid was all about it. There was that thing after episode 8 where everyone was, tweet out your 4 sitcoms that would be you if you were Wanda, and I sat there and I'm like, okay, Dick Van Dyke, Bewitched, Full House. I was like, we've already really hit a lot of these things in the show. My thing was I would then derail a little bit in the 90s a bit, but still it was like so damn close of a thing. So this was a show for me. After those first 2 episodes, I think I even tweeted this out where I was like, I totally get why some people might not like this show because the way it was being weird. You do really have to appreciate sitcoms and stuff like that. Because one of the big complaints, I think, for a lot of people with the weekly format of the show, they had a lot of things people wanted to see it as a binge thing. And for me, I loved having it as this weekly show, in part because I loved sitcoms and it gave me time to really think about what was going to be next and things. But yeah, the show had me hooked from the moment it went from, they did such a good job replicating the sound, the visuals, the feel of black and white television of Dick Van Dyke.
Aspect ratios, man. The aspect ratios.
That was really cool.
It was as good as you could do on like an HD TV. Like the grain, both in sound and visual, was there until suddenly Miss Hart, starts breaking down in that episode, and it's like all of a sudden the sound changes, and then it's like, wait, there's now music. Suddenly, it's so subtle. I'm not a sound design person. I'm not a person who usually appreciates that. Only as I've gotten older, I've started really appreciating sound design in video games and in television. And that episode made me literally just go like, what the fuck is going on around me right now? And that was when I was hooked on the show. I've said this on Twitter a bunch for now, 8 weeks, and I stand by it. It started as, could this possibly be my new favorite thing in the MCU? And after 9 episodes, it is categorically my favorite thing the MCU has ever done. Did it 100% stick the landing? No, but I am not actually really that bothered with the finale. For me, my only bigger issue with the finale is we could talk more, but I don't appreciate what they did with the townspeople exactly about them just kind of shrugging. But almost every other issue, little thing, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I bet there's some payoff to this. Even the Evans Peters thing, I'm like sitting here like, why do I still feel like there's still a payoff to come on this in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I was wondering if it literally was just a payoff to Growing Pains, because I know that they said this in the kind of funny thing, but I immediately ignore it as Seaver's best friend Bonner. So I was like,
that was. I mean,
100%.
It was a sitcom. Yeah, it was definitely.
I haven't watched the kind of funny thing yet, so they made that connection there as well.
Yeah,
they made that connection there too, and I was like, I immediately thought about that too.
Boner, yeah, no, boner.
Yeah, I mean that's
yeah. I'll be curious to see how some of those elements continue to come back. In particular, yeah, if there is an Evan Peters tie-in, because it is such a you knew what you were doing, obviously, casting that actor in a role in this show, that could have been anybody, but you cast it specifically for the Quicksilver versus Quicksilver comparison. So to not have to it just be complete coincidence that the long suffering Ralph was just happens to look like another version of this character that we know can't be real.
It's go ahead.
I do want to bring this up, and it's only because of I kind of lost it when I had a conversation with Joshua Yale from IGN, where he was breaking down what he thought that didn't work for him, why the missing person in the town thing, and I actually misconstrued that it was just a missing person that someone called in, and that's why when Jimmy comes in, he realizes it's the whole town, but actually there was, I guess, someone in the FBI witness protection program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're witness. There's somebody in the witness protection program who, uh,
Yeah.
a missing, like basically like didn't make his check-in.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that might have been Ralph Bonner, aka someone else, because as much as I because the way that she described her power, like how she like manipulated him, was I assume the necklace of like it being the eyes and ears or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But could it be Peter? I was hoping.
Yeah.
His
No,
name's
I'm-
Peter in the X-Men version, so
We'll
I don't know.
certainly see. It's
Well,
it'll be interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
I was gonna say one other thing on that, just on the topic of they know what they're doing. Tommy literally when when he starts running around, he steals the guard's hat and glasses. He steals goggle glasses and a hat that looks like Evan Peters' damn costume
Mm-hmm.
from Days of Future Past. Like,
That's actually another hint about his future superhero persona
sure,
Yeah.
of Speed,
sure.
who also wears goggle glasses.
Well, yeah, I know it's a callback to, a call forward essentially to what he's going to become. But the fact that both pieces look so much like a
Mhm.
costume piece from X-Men, Fox X-Men movies.
yeah.
It's
Look
too
at Wanda.
close.
Look at Wanda's outfit. It looks
Yeah.
like Magneto.
Yeah.
Oh, her outfit blatantly looks like a combination of her not age, but it looks like a combination of her previous superhero outfit mixed with Magneto's. It's like
Yeah.
they know what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
We all know that.
I mean, one of the things I saw today, somebody talked basically like, oh, there's like an Orioles poster or character or like a player from the Orioles, and Quicksilver in the in X-Men grew up outside of Baltimore. There's like a mention
Mhm.
made of that, and so like, oh, is it like oh, are they really the same? Like, I'm sure this isn't the last we'll see of Ralph Boner, but if it is, fine. It gave us fun speculation for a few weeks there. It was a
Exactly.
good old time.
Which is
Frank,
also a classic sitcom thing, by the way.
absolutely
Giving you speculation about stuff that does not pay off is actually
I-
a sitcom trope.
I mean, yeah, like
so-
this more than any show since Lost made me think of watching Lost on a week-to-week basis, and
Mhm.
specifically going out there and finding all these fun theories, and yeah, a ton of them did not pay off at all here in the finale. But it was like they weren't
cares?
like that's not what they were
Mhm.
designing the show to be. It was
Exactly.
it was everybody Nintendo directing themselves into fervor, and that's what we got. Frank, how about you? What were your thoughts?
No, I definitely really enjoyed the show. I think I agree with a lot of what's been said, but especially I think one of the things I feel the most is what you just said there too, of like it has that Lost feeling of like week to week we're all getting together and talking about like what do we think is happening, where do we think it's going to go, and especially like early on in the beginning when it was such like a slow burn and there was just kind of like teasing things, or somebody would say something weird and you'd be like, oh, what does that mean? Or it was a lot of stuff like that. And one of the things that I always like think about too is like there's one of the first episodes when they're in the FBI, like they have everybody's licenses like pinned up on the board and like Agnes doesn't have one.
Mhm.
And so it's like there's all these little things just throughout the entire show. You could go back and rewatch it and just find stuff and find hints. And, I think that'll be really enjoyable to do in the future. And so like I definitely really enjoyed it. And I think that week to week move was kind of probably a good move for them. Especially because I think it kept the discussion going a lot longer and it made it a lot more interesting. Whereas like, and I'm not just kind of picking this as a random example, but like Jessica Jones, you watch in like one day, and I barely remember what happens in Jessica Jones. But
Mhm.
here, I could tell we could talk about all the little things, like the background is something that was pinned up because we went back and watched it 4 times.
Mhm.
Like, I
Yeah.
definitely think that was something special, and I'm glad they got to capture that. And I'm excited. I'm very excited for whatever they get to do next with like Falcon and Winter Soldier and everything like that, and even Doctor Strange too.
Yeah, it's interesting you touch on Jessica Jones, because I remember very specifically, very much binging that show, and then it's it's done, and so yeah, I also very much prefer kind of this like episodic drip of stuff. But I also remember like my big takeaway from Jessica Jones was the Purple Man, aka David Tennant's like bad guy character from that, quickly shot up to my favorite MCU villain alongside Loki, and it was because we had so much time with that character over the course of 8 episodes, 10 episodes, whatever it was. And very much kind of echoing that with this, the biggest thing I am most impressed by with WandaVision is that they took the relationship of Wanda and Vision that you had like 4 scenes of note across like all of the movies, like establishing that relationship, to now 9 episodes later, like that relationship is so integral to like what I'm going to think about with the MCU, and having just that much time, that much more time with these characters, like just now makes me even more excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier and getting to see those characters get more fleshed out, and then of course Loki after that. So yeah, I love really getting more time to build out and flesh out these characters, since when you're juggling, their little subplot alongside a million other subplots in Infinity War, you just don't get enough time to really build out this relationship. So you can focus on characters like this, really like drill down into what makes that couple interesting. And here we are, like all abuzz after 8 weeks. Cam, oh yeah, go ahead.
So sorry, one thing on that. I was gonna say with with Wanda and Vision's relationship, I mean, I was sad about Vision's death at Wanda's hands in Infinity War, not because of the relationship they developed, but because I knew they're supposed to have a relationship from the comics. It was never really the movies never give us time. Now we've had a show that both gives us a view of their relationship post death for all intents and purposes, but also before that point, and actually fills in a lot of gaps, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. Cam, what were your thoughts?
It's important to note this is not Marvel's first foray into weekly television material. Of course, we've referenced already Jessica Jones and the other Netflix adaptations, the adaptations that put out this season, season by season over a period of time, and came out Daredevil, Luke Cage, etc. But there was another show that was a week-to-week show, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Inhumans.
That had more than 1 week of episodes?
Yeah. I watched,
not to my knowledge, no.
For this particular podcast, I watched the pilot of Inhumans and did an episode on that. And then I went through and watched the whole rest of that series. Not good. There's a reason it got canceled, very clearly.
It got canceled before it debuted. Like, that's how bad it was.
Yeah. But yes, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was like up and down, especially its first season.
It was the Jimmy Woo like X-Files show that everybody wants. It was like that's what they did with Agent Coulson.
Yeah, they did with
Pretty
Agent Coulson. Granted, it was definitely a victim of the eventual turf war that ended up, favoring Kevin Feige over Joss Whedon and some of the other television quote unquote people. Kevin Feige like originally was like co-sharing this like direction with everybody else, and he consolidated power in a very, I think, the best way possible. But it's because of his kind of assuming like control of the MCU, a la Thanos almost.
He was like, "Fine, I'll do it myself."
Yep, I was gonna
basically, yeah, he did it himself. Because of this, they put together something that I think is still one of the coolest things that I experienced as a fan of the MCU, which is the reveal of Hydra. The reveal of Hydra, Captain America: Winter Soldier came out the same week that the episode revealed that this main character, one of the main characters of the team that you've come to know and love, is actually a Hydra member. And the reveal of Hydra being in S.H.I.E.L.D. and so getting an entire like multiple seasons after that of the impact of that helped shape kind of like the definitive point that was Captain America: Winter Soldier for me. It's one of the reasons why I consider it a not just a touchstone, but a cornerstone of where Marvel would later go to. And I say this with absolute reverence for what WandaVision has done, because to me, this is another one of those big moments. WandaVision, it's not just like it's setting something up. It told a very, very good story of grief, acceptance of loss, and understanding and like finding a new direction, which was the entire point of the show. But in doing so, it also introduced several wild cards, things that are just like out in the open now, like this resurrected Vision who has now had his memories unlocked, but he's not the same Vision, and that whole like Ship of Theseus
Mhm.
moment
so
was
good.
No, I love
so
that. Yeah.
incredible.
So good.
So good because it's super high thought process that like Vision always goes for, but at the same time it's so well explained and it's so well done.
Yeah,
And
I remember.
I love that analogy that
So
he used.
good.
I don't
But
remember where I first was introduced to that concept. I don't remember where from, but it was a very much simplified version where it was like, if you've got a broom and you replace the handle of the broom and you replace the brush head of the broom, is it still the same broom? Very much being that same story. I don't remember what that got introduced in. Maybe it was some dumb like TV show I watched years ago or something like that. But like it was the same kind of premise, and I was like, oh, this is really a really cool, more intellectual feeling version of that story that I had been kind of exposed
The
to.
moment the White Vision goes, please elaborate. I was
oh,
just
that's so good, so good. No, I loved it. I like they have that going on. You have the whole revelation of once again, like we only got the briefest glimpses of magic in the MCU in Doctor Strange, and then Doctor Strange uses magic, of course, in Avengers, Infinity War, and at the end of Endgame. But the nuances of magical society and like its play into it is not heavily touched on, and we got to see a very different side of it. We got to, once again, of course, shout out to like the thing that everybody loves to bring up, the Salem witch trials, Salem, home of the witches. We get that. That's Agatha's background. But this idea of like Wanda is a prophesied witch. Like the retcon that they've done to be like, no, you used probability hex when you were a child to save you and your brother.
Yeah, like you were the
And it's
Scarlet
like,
Witch all along. It wasn't
yeah,
the Mind Stone. And part of me wonders if like they can now lean into that because they've acquired Fox and they don't have that divide anymore and can
I think
retcon
so.
that.
I think
Versus
so,
like,
yeah.
oh, if the original plan was no, that really did give her powers and obviously
Well,
things
it
have
was,
changed.
but it always brought into question like, oh, it makes sense why the Mind Stone gave her mind powers, but how did it give Pietro super speed?
Yeah.
And now it's a question of like young Pietro in that scene appears and disappears pretty frequently. Almost deliberately so, to emphasize, here's the thing, maybe these were quote unquote young superhuman abilities that hadn't yet matured. I don't know, something like mutations not maturing until you reach puberty. I don't know.
That's exactly right.
I know, right? No, but I really think that this is levels of, and one of the reasons it's so good is because something you didn't touch on actually, Trevor, is Jean-Christophe Beck, who is a legendary composer, composed all of the music for this.
Yeah.
He
and working with the Lopez's, best known from Frozen. I've been a fan of Robert Lopez's work since Avenue Q, and Book of Mormon. Yay for him. Love their themes and across the series were wonderful. I was really just sad we didn't get one more in this final episode.
Right? Oh yeah, no, like all the introductions, everything. I mean, but I will say the moment that hit me hardest sitcom wise was, of course, we've already established Nick at Night Kids, but the Growing Pains intro for the 80s.
When the brush came in, I lost it.
Yeah, like the brush came in, and then it's like the baby to like adult photos, and it's like, oh my gosh. But I really have to say, the biggest thing that surprised me, and the biggest thing that won me over, were the actors who played the boys. First off, you bring in Speed and Wiccan, like you're just like, we're already just going to go at that. We're going to go ham with it.
Young Avengers is somewhere down the line. These guys will be, they'll play into that.
But like, I love it. It's Young Avengers stuff. But what's great about it is like their Halloween costumes are literally a childhood cosplay of their adult costumes.
So good.
And it plays into, of course, Wiccan modeled his costume after his mother. Wanda, when she assumes her mantle as a Scarlet Witch, is like, you could even if you didn't know about Wiccan as a character in the comic books, you can be like, did she like draw inspiration from her son's Halloween costume?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very much inspired by that. Like the crown of the Scarlet Witch, like everything about that this show has done to establish a new status quo of the universe and bringing in a side of it that like we just really haven't had, which is the magic side of it. And it's just like putting it in front of people and being like, yeah, no, you guys were like, Doctor Strange, don't got to really pay too much attention to that. No. Doctor Strange, the new movie's coming out. You're going to watch it. You're going to be in, like, you're going to want to watch it. She's going to, like, Wanda's going to be in it. It's going to be great.
There's another little trivia thing I didn't include there, but when like the time zones or the eras are like flickering, especially there in the final episode, the movie theater at one point switches and is playing The Great and Powerful Oz, which of course also gets a nod here in the finale with the Wicked Witch boots under the house.
Oh my gosh, that was so good.
I was so into that.
Chills when I saw that. Chills when I saw that.
But also, Great and Powerful Oz, of course, directed by Sam Raimi, who is returning to Marvel for Multiverse of Madness in the next film. So,
my God.
So I really think that this show, to kind of summarize my thoughts, this show just has created a new status quo that we'll see going forward. I can't wait to see how Falcon and Winter Soldier, like, I don't imagine that because they were filmed kind of simultaneously, they would feed too much into each other. But I'm super excited to see where we go going forward. I'm even more excited for Doctor Strange than I thought. Doctor Strange, the original film, is still one of my favorite in the MCU. I know it's not like highly beloved by a lot of people, but I super love it. Like, it's very endearing into my heart, or it's endeared to my heart. But to see them say, we haven't just put magic aside, it's in the center of attention. It is face forward. This is the direction we're going in. And then to see Wanda straight up pull a Doctor Strange type living situation in the post-credit scene, which is just like I can't wait, because it's like, why are we getting into the Multiverse of Madness? I don't know, maybe because the Scarlet Witch everything
is
up.
reading the Darkhold.
And she's gonna pull her children from other realities.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, and Cam, I know that you said you're sort of like you've watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Did you watch all to the point where the Darkhold was actually on the show?
I did.
Yeah.
No. I got to halfway through I finished the season that introduced the Inhuman Monastery.
Got it.
Got to like to the point where Daisy meets her parents and like they reunite as a family temporarily.
Shout out Dale Cooper.
Dale Cooper, my dude. He's on TikTok now. It's crazy.
I know. It's awesome.
But yeah, the Darkhold has kind of made its appearance in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Runaways, and so now it's making the crossover into like MCU
its
proper
official appearance.
Yeah.
Finally, the
actual appearance.
Kevin Feige is finally finishing his Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, with
He's finishing
the suggestion that it is the book that was missing from the library at Camertage in Doctor Strange, because obviously it has very much that same look and feel as the books from that.
Oh my gosh, her runes, the runes that she had in her little basement coven area, where like I saw those, I was like, oh my gosh, this is Doctor Strange stuff. She's a witch. This is the best thing ever.
With the putting magic aside thing, I was thinking about this. Like, the first 3 phases was all cosmic, was the ultimate like goal, was to get to the cosmic Marvel kind of stuff, right? And magic is touched on, obviously, Doctor Strange, and then, kind of pushed aside from him doing magic. I feel like phase 4 and onward, we're heading into the 2 M's, magic and mutants.
I would say
really
that as well as
or space.
Yeah.
Aspects.
Space is definitely going to be a huge aspect.
Yeah, I would say like even we're gonna go full tilt in cosmic, because with
cosmic,
cosmic really in like the first 3 phases we got the Guardians movies, which were themselves a big old risk, and then eventually we finally got to Captain Marvel. But yeah, even the tease of Sword at the end of Far From Home, now Sword being like full tilt established, they've basically picked up the mantle, especially during the 5 years of the blip that was kind of really established in the show. lays the groundwork for future Fantastic Four kind of stuff, as well as again like Captain Marvel 2, Secret Wars, and potentially mutant stuff. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where all this comes. When Cam, you mentioned Winter Soldier really being like a turning point for the MCU, I absolutely thought the same thing, and thought about that show or that film a lot throughout this. And I feel like if WandaVision had fully committed to the multiverse aspect and like signed off on Evan Peters is Quicksilver just from a different universe, that would have been like Winter Soldier level of like, okay, the MCU has changed forever as a result of this.
They weren't willing to go there.
Yeah, I don't know if it was they weren't willing to go there so much as like
they
teased it and they had fun teasing it to the audience that, you know, is in the know, or the people that were, you know, excited to kind of learn more about this. But I think obviously with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, as well as all of the casting rumors for the next Spider-Man, I don't think we're very far from that.
I have to let the Spider-Man thing go just so I don't get disappointed, just because of the way that I've been so set up this way, thinking that this was like the lead-in, which is so weird because they did it again also with Far From Home. I'm sorry. What is the National Lampoon's European Vacation one? No Way Home.
Far From Home.
No, Far From Home was.
No,
Far From Home. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. With J. Jonah Jameson, who's the same actor from. It's just like, what's happening?
And that's and especially when this show in episode 4 establishes that all of this WandaVision stuff is happening just 3 weeks after the blip, and Spider-Man we know happens months later.
Yeah, about 8 months later.
Like I immediately, and it was one of those things that I didn't see really talked about and speculated about, but I was like that J. Jonah Jameson is evidence that like the multiverse is a thing really already. It's already been set up. It's a fun like, you know, fan casting thing, but also it plays into everything else we're seeing multiverse wise.
Well, the thing
Mysterio says he's from another universe.
Well, that was the thing I was going to say. One of the videos I watched points this out, that when Mysterio mentions he's from another from multiverse, Nick Fury shrugs as if that's not a foreign concept to him. Like he doesn't think that's a weird thing to hear at all.
Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Well, but this, you know.
Yeah.
I just watched Far From Home a couple weeks ago, and when Mysterio says it too, he doesn't even say like, "Oh, I'm just from another Earth." He's like, "You're Earth 616. I'm Earth 1 or like 1238 or whatever." He gives them a number, and I'm like, man, like they're literally alluding to the actual numbers of like the universes. Like he gives one, even if he's just pulling it out of nowhere. But I'm like, that's the naming convention, you know?
Yeah.
I think multiverses are going to get established.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying,
if they don't, then Doctor Strange is really misnamed.
But what I mean is Doctor Strange is seemingly, since it's coming out after the third Spider-Man movie now, it seems like it goes Spider-Man and then Doctor Strange is the very next movie. Strange was originally announced as coming out right after WandaVision. And now I don't know if it's due to filming or it's now the new plan kind of thing.
March 25th, 2022. Okay.
Well, like last year we were supposed to get Black Widow and Eternals, and everything got pushed. So
as well.
Yeah. So everything.
Man,
else
but how great if we could have went from this directly into Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Like how.
So, but anyway, so I'm saying is we don't know.
The new Spider-Man film's called No Way Home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you miss that whole thing? Where they
with the announcement.
You still think it was Home Slice? Remember when was that?
I really thought it was
Spider-Man. No, like, are you kidding me, dude? He's so going into the multiverse. Spider-Man is
100%
face first in the multiverse. I had this as a day ago. I didn't know.
I really thought it was going to be Spider-Man Home for Christmas. Because it's coming out then. Like I still thought that worked with the multiverse. That name so damn well.
Also, I will say they do have to rectify the only problem with J.K. Simmons coming back to reprise his role.
Okay.
Give him the hair.
Nah, I'm fine with him.
Give him the hair and the mustache.
That was the early 2000s. It's the new age.
Yeah.
He's now the Alex Jones version.
I don't need it. I don't need the Alex Jones version.
He looks like Alex Jones.
I just want the J. Jonah Jameson version. J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson is one of the most iconic looks of all time. And it needs to come back.
If Tobey Maguire shows up and then
I don't want. Now that we know more about Tobey Maguire, I don't want Tobey Maguire to come back.
Oh no. I'll look
Like
that up later.
We can look that up later.
not that level of like, oh no, it's just like
Okay.
he's just such a dick.
Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
He's an absolute
He's
just douche.
still he's still doing the emo thing from Spider-Man 3. He hasn't let it
Oh,
go.
worst.
it was
And-
inspired
let it
by
go.
him.
Yeah.
he is player X from Molly's game, if that's a reference that anybody would understand.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
yeah, he's a real life douchebag.
Got
Let's circle back to the show. I want to get a feel for everybody's. We've talked about a lot of kind of like favorite moments and stuff throughout the series. I want to talk about like favorite episodes and favorite like scenes within episodes. Kind of make like that round robin. And like I think Josh in particular, you kind of touched on like, did it stick the landing? So we can kind of use that as a conversation starter of like, did it stick the landing in this, as well as like, are there anything? Obviously, we've touched on a lot of the Evan Peters stuff that didn't work for us, or that we wish had turned out better. So favorite moments and least favorite moments. Mario, I'll throw it to you again first.
Okay. Well, my favorite moment, and I popped hard. That's a wrestling term. Is for the it's Agatha all along, only because I'm a huge Monsters fan.
Yeah.
I'm a massive Monsters fan. So when that beat kicked in, I was like, oh, so perfect.
Oh, that like that routinely just like will pop into my head, and I'll just be like, "Burr, burr, 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 burr," and just like, it was Agatha all along. Yeah. I love that like shot to the top of the charts, and Catherine Hahn is now like number 1 on iTunes or whatever. It's like awesome. You deserve it, Catherine Hahn, because you kill it in across this whole series. I like. Sorry to interrupt. We'll get back to you there. When like Catherine Hahn basically like is messing with the kids, there was a moment in the final episode where I was just like, well, goodbye, Catherine Hahn. It was nice having you in the MCU. And then they don't kill her off, and I was like, yay. I don't know if we'll go back to her anytime soon or what, but like the fact that they didn't do what they've done with so many of their villains and kill her off leaves me excited, because she just was so great in that role.
Wanda straight up says, I know where to find you.
Exactly.
It's like very clear, like, yeah, no, we're not done with her yet.
Yeah.
Oh my god, please be in Multiverse of Madness. I would love to see her next to Cumberbatch, them riffing off each other. It'd be just wonderful. But yeah, I overall I think my the favorite movie show, and apparently it's the most memed version of the whole show, of course, is that beautiful line between Wanda and Vision. What is grief without love persevering? It's so goddamn wonderful. You are all evil for making fun of it. This is so bad. Oh,
that line happened. That line happened, and after the episode ended, I looked at Charnel, and I'm like that's my wife for listeners. Like I looked at her, I'm like, I need to go to. I'm starting therapy in a month, but I need to go to therapy to process the emotional weight of my trauma compared to this line.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
I mean, are you? Let's compare that also to the amazing last line that they gave each other.
Yes.
We've said goodbye before. It stands to reason, like that
we'll say hello again. Yeah.
We'll say hello again.
That one got me.
What?
Yeah,
What?
God.
My heart breaking, like already breaking when she says, "Thank you for choosing me to be your mother." Already breaking my heart into pieces, like tearing me apart.
This show has lines.
Oh, the last like 10 minutes, like 10, 15 minutes, literally just, they're like, hey, you know how we've been like tugging at your heartstrings? We've moved down. We have your heart in our hands, and we're just going to rip it into pieces. Yeah, and that's exactly what they did to me. Like
Paul Bettany, so good. Paul Bettany is so good.
Oh, my heart.
Get to see Paul Bettany be like act again, like get into the meat of something again was amazing.
And then he's gonna come back again, because guess what? He's still Vision.
And
they won't give him up. He's too good.
I remember this being like one of those like early Iron Man trivia, so I didn't pull it in for this, but like I remember back when Iron Man like took off and the MCU really started to blow up, I remember reading stories about like Paul Bettany had forgotten he had even like recorded the lines of Jarvis, because it was basically just like a day or two in a voice studio. And so like,
and he was he was struggling to get work at that time too. So like he just took anything really kind of thing.
I love the story. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it like as much of a shitbag as Joss Whedon continues to kind of show himself to be, it
Yeah.
was inspired casting to just say, well, we've got Paul Bettany, let's just make him Vision in Age of Ultron.
Yeah,
and
and his
that
story
certainly
about that
was
is so
like
good.
a gift that has kind of continued to pay off.
Mhm.
Especially maybe not any like distilled perfectly in this show, and his delivery of some of those wonderful lines as well. Any other moments you want to give us some love to, Mario?
No, I'm gonna save it for everybody else. But honestly, I can't think of my least favorite moments other than finding out boner is boner. That's probably the least
Yeah.
thing. That's just literally it. Yeah, I think that would be where I would say. But yeah, it's
Oh my gosh,
so
I
many
just
moments there.
realized Peter Maximoff from the Fox universe would 10,000% choose the name Ralph Boner.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. No, that's a Quicksilver move for sure.
That's
Yeah.
why when he still did the
100%.
moves, I was like, "This is just too perfect." It's still him, right? It has to be still
It's the
him.
same thing with the Mandarin. They're going to come back around again and be like, "Oh, you thought we tricked you? We
Yeah.
double tricked you."
There you go.
Yeah.
Especially given that you had in the X-Men, it was like, oh, he's in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then he shows up basically at the end of the 80s episode. So like continuing there were so
To be
many
the live-in uncle character from so many 90s sitcoms.
Yeah, there were so many like it just perfect kismet moments that it can't just have been like for this ultimate payoff of a boner joke. Like it all worked too well together to fit into so many tropes of sitcoms and everything else, as well as the like for nerds like us, the wider like cross brand versions of these characters to not be something deeper.
Here's the thing: if they don't do it though, at the same time, you just made me realize how much I would respect them because they did all of this for a boner joke.
There
To
you
be
go.
honest, because I've been watching Always Sunny. This is before I even knew he was directing every episode, but I saw that name and then immediately I walked into WandaVision like, wait, am I watching Always Sunny? What's happening? And then honestly, it feels like it's directly something.
He could 100%, knowing him as a director, it could just be the world's greatest mysterious boner joke. Because he's a man who's directed over 40 episodes of It's Always Sunny. It's possible.
Yeah. Josh, hit us with some of your favorite moments or least favorite.
All right. Well, I'll give you one. Just like my favorite moment is Love Persevering. But I can overarch that really just to episode 8 because really episode 8 fills in so many different things. It gives us an explanation. One of the biggest complaints about not complaints, but comments people would always make about Wanda were the things like she's not the Scarlet Witch. Episode 8 gave us Scarlet Witch. She never really grieves for Pietro. Oh no, she did. We just didn't really see it.
Yeah.
Her and Vision's love story doesn't really happen. Nope, there. That's actually also that ties into the grief with Pietro as well, which also ties into her grief moving forward. Episode 8 fills in it fills in so much, and it does it so brilliantly and tackles grief in such a wonderful way throughout.
It even helps establish why her accent is so transient over the course of the series. Is she learned English from all these sitcoms, and some of
Dick
that
Van Dyke.
it comes and goes. Especially if it's a second language kind of thing. I always think in the confines of this, in the context of this, I was in a show years ago when I was doing theater where it was a Agatha Christie murder mystery show, and I pulled my dialect from I was watching a ton of Doctor Who at the time, specifically David Tennant Doctor Who. And there was a moment in the show every night, every performance where my British accent slipped into Scottish just because of how it came out, and it worked for my character because I wasn't who I who I was trying to be or whatever, and so I gave myself all that backstory for it. But that's just how sometimes dialect happens, is you hone in on the wrong thing and it just sometimes comes and goes. So I loved even that gets justification in universe as to why she just kind of abandoned the Sokovian over the course of the films.
Well, it's
And
a lot
also
of
the
ways.
trauma. Go back, Mario.
I was gonna say, giving in the same way of that's how she learned, and that's why the voice keeps going in and out. This is also this story is being told from her perspective, right? From Wanda's perspective of the incident that happened with her family. So like when we hear it in Age of Ultron, we're hearing it from Pietro's side, which he doesn't want to listen and watch the same episode of Dick Van Dyke all the damn time.
Yeah.
So from his perspective, it's like, oh, they were having dinner and the bomb went off. From her, it's like, I was watching my favorite show and the bomb blew off.
Yeah. Maybe,
Well,
maybe
also
it
think
is
about
like
the
the
age of kids
unreliable
as well.
narrator.
Yeah.
Well, it's age of kids, and also think about what you remember and how you construe stuff. Also, a traumatic event happens, which restructures your entire ability to remember things coherently to the point that you could completely and utterly forget the circumstances of something. And just on the accent thing, she also associates speaking English with the most traumatic event of her life, which could also explain her inability to her accent to really remain. I love what amounts to really what could have been considered a continuity error now actually has believable backstory to make it make sense. Like it's showed it wonders. My other favorite moment was the one that I couldn't shut up about after the second episode, the magic show. Because Paul Bettany hasn't really done comedy to my knowledge in like a while, really, and
even then
like,
he plays the straight man.
I mean, well,
and
like,
he plays.
I think of him as Knight's Tale, where he played Chaucer, which is a very comedic role. Like the first time I ever remember seeing Paul Bettany, he's walking on stage or on film naked, basically, because he's lost his clothes in a bet or whatever it was.
But yeah,
I
he
saw him
plays
in
a straight man.
Wimbledon. Very different film.
True.
Very different film. but yeah, he plays a straight man a lot, has a lot of different things, but I think of Chaucer. I think of Knight's Tale when I think of Paul Bettany, and literally he walks on to the stage in the magic show and it's Chaucer speaking is what I'm hearing that character like exclaim stuff. And I'm like, yeah, he's playing the drunk, sitcom character at this point, but like that scene again reminded me of so much of the stuff I love from sitcoms, and also it gave him a chance to get into that comedic acting. I'm just like, I was like, I'm in love. I was just absolutely in love.
I mean, yeah, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, and again Catherine Hahn. Like the fact that they nail like pitch perfect all of the different eras of comedy that they had to touch on for this show is a testament to their talent as performers in general, and let alone that they have the like emotional pulling stakes of the love persevering line and all that stuff as well. It very much ties into that old trope of like it's like if you're a comedy actor, you can be a dramatic actor, because comedy and the timing of it is that much harder. And these guys are showing that, like, yeah, they can handle both sides of that coin expertly, I think. Absolutely. Frank, how about you?
Yeah, I definitely, I think, have a bunch of moments that I love from the whole series, and I'll just try to go with like a couple because I think we've covered a couple of them already. But I mean, going to the last episode, like I had just watched it earlier today, and so it's like kind of like fresh in my memory. But like the whole fight with Vision and Vision, I still think is incredible. Like I know we talked about a bit about how it ends, or sort of where he's like, I forget the exact, thing he references, but he kind of gives that super long name. He's like, "Are you familiar with the parable of like blah 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 blah?"
The
And he's like,
Theseus,
"Naturally."
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love that he's just like naturally, and like I love that back and forth of like between the two of them, and he's just talking to himself, and like they're, it's like that both the smartest man in the room kind of thing, which is like funny,
very Dr. Manhattan like.
yeah. But I really love that, and I love to me the way that fight played out. I didn't necessarily expect that fight to play out like that, and this isn't even putting down what I'm about to reference, but it seems almost like it was a better version of like the Scott Pilgrim, like Nega Scott sort of like ending, where he's like, yeah, he's actually a pretty cool guy, and they just sort of settle up and like walk away. Like,
well, it's because the Nega Scott's
that.
a good person versus Scott who's not. So.
That's true. Yeah. No, like that's a great moment, and I'm not putting that down, but I just mean like to me this was that, but even like better and done even better, it seemed like. And like I really enjoyed that, and I am very excited to be like, what does that mean? Because now there's another Vision, but it's not Vision because he doesn't have like the Mind Stone. He's not alive. He's just a sentient like robot now. But I don't know. I think this show set up a lot of things that are going to mean a lot for the universe, which I'm also really excited about. But that was one of those things I definitely, I think I really enjoyed. Another one of my favorite moments is actually the ending with Agatha, because it's like, I mean, man, what a brutal resolution for a villain, especially for the MCU. Like, I get what you say too, like most of the times they get killed, but even then where you're just like, I'm going to lock you in a mind prison of my own creation and everyone else is going to be free, but you're locked in the prison and I'll come back whenever I want and maybe I'll need you. Like, and I think she will come back for her at some point.
Yeah,
She's
Josh.
also doing these jokes with her eyes filling up with tears.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
joke, like Agnes is saying all the the classic sitcom kind of like one-liner jokes, but
Not
her
if I
eyes are
see
just
you
brimming with
first.
tears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's one of the most traumatic like things
So
in a
good.
show full of trauma.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, just a testament to how great Catherine Hahn is in that role, playing all of those different layers throughout the entire course of the series. Cam, how about you?
You know, I have to say, and I've been saving it to really talk about it all at once. Catherine Hahn is a tremendous light on this show. She is incredible. From when we had no idea she was like something deeper, just as a side character, I thought even if she's just on the surface level like everybody else, she's like, this is a fantastic casting. I have been a massive fan of hers since the film The Goods, Live Hard, Sell Hard.
That's a great movie. That's still really funny.
It's a terrible film. It's not great.
It's funny.
Great.
Watch it. It's funny.
It's horrible. But she plays this like dominant saleswoman who
I'm trying to even picture who's in it. Is that Bobby Cannavale? Is
It's
that
Jeremy Piven.
Jeremy
Piven, and
Jeremy
Ed
Piven,
Helms is the bad guy.
Yeah, Ed Helms is the bad guy in it.
Jesus.
It's like it's bad on so many levels of just like quality and like other stuff. But I realized because she came out of that being like a really incredible performance for me, and I was just really blown away by because I had seen her in Step Brothers and I had seen her in a few other things where she was fine, but her character but she was very much like I'm a like white suburban mom, and then in this film she like turned on like immense sex appeal and like blew me away that like just in how much of a shift she was from like her character from Step Brothers or even her side character from Anchorman.
Yeah,
just a dominating presence on film, and just to see the growth of her career over time, and then when she was Jan on Parks and Rec, like sharing scenes with like really like strong actors and actresses who like you were familiar with on the show, but still having such a commanding presence and just being so great at the variety of roles that she's able to do. But I really think she's at her best when she is playing a person who is, or at least believes that they are in control of a situation. And that is all she's playing here. And she is just such an absolute joyful delight to have, whether it was like the I Love Lucy like nosy neighbor helping her out, like smuggling in cooked food.
What kind of housewife would I be if I didn't have 4 complete ready-to-made meals ready to go?
Yeah, so good. Or but I really think out and on to a side point of this is I mentioned it at the top of the show, the kids. The episode where the kids really shine, I think it's episode 7. The Malcolm in the Middle episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great episode.
Yeah. The way the kids took control of that episode, and it really was about them. Not only does that endear the characters to you, but they have like little mini arcs in that episode of Billy having like confidence issues compared to his brother and to Tommy, and like these like very like really wonderful like classic sitcom stories are told throughout this episode from the eyes of these kids. And at the same time we got, and this is why I think there might be something deeper about Pietro as Ralph Boner, is he said something that was very peculiar in that episode. It was never touched on again. They never went back to it, but it's the one thing that I've kind of like held on to. And we're talking about this episode reminded me of it, but I'll get to it in a second. But I just really want to say like my standout moments are really Catherine Hahn and the kids, like especially in that episode, carrying that episode through and being the main focus of it was just stupendous. They're incredible young actors. I really can't wait to see their transition as they get older, and if like they stay within the MCU as these characters, I would love to see it. That being so, but
just real quick, a couple things there. It was episode 6 was the Halloween episode that they kind of shined, because episode 7 was like the Modern Family breaking the fourth wall episode. And then on the kids, like something I saw in one of the videos I was watching today touched on the idea that the kid actors have had Instagram posts in and around where Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness has been shooting. So there's like a tease, of course, that you get in the finale there, in the final cutscene there.
Mom, help
post
us.
credits is them calling out for her.
I was wondering if they were actually going to age them up again, just so that way it would be in closer and in line with.
I don't want that. I don't want that.
No, I know, but with like the team up with supposedly like Miss Marvel, and then obviously with Haley Steinfeld, Kate Bishop, So that's what I was wondering they were gonna go with, since they have apparently the ability to age up. But you're right.
Yeah.
If they're hanging out at Multitude of Madness, then all right, cool.
Hey, here's an idea. Maybe they just Shazam, so they're kids normally, and then they Shazam into their adult superheroes.
Well, if I've learned if I've learned anything over the past 2 months, it's that there's a whole Mephisto subplot thing that can still happen now. So maybe that's what will be set up in Multiverse of Madness, is they'll come back as shards of Mephisto, because that's their origins in comics.
But the nugget that I was talking about earlier, and the last thing that I'll touch on is he talks about Evan Peters as Pietro is talking about what happened. When she asked, she goes, "What happened?" And he said, all of a sudden I was running, and then I wasn't, and I realized that I had holes in me, and then nothing, and then I heard your voice calling out to me, and I just came running. And when she says that, it's like this, like they cut away to something silly or funny, or over to like a more serious thing with Vision. But to me, that's the thing that made me believe that this really was Pietro. Like this was, this is like somewhere in this is Pietro, multiverse, whatever it might happen. I'm like, that's what made me a believer in that theory. Otherwise, I was going to be like, whatever. It's probably something different.
It's Wonder Woman 1984, where he came back as Ralph Boner.
Listen,
was in his body for a while.
Unlike Wonder Woman 84, where there's like questions of like consensual relations.
I don't know. There's still definitely consent here, in that this guy was possessed by a necklace, and that to that, like but he didn't curious to see. True. I'll be very curious to see how that resolves, because I feel like that could very easily at this point be wiped away. Like Pietro dying and being gunned down in Sokovia would be common knowledge. So like it could just be Agatha throwing that out there to mess with Wanda and give her false hope.
How many of us have seen Dark Phoenix, and what happens at the end to Peter at the end of that? Because I know
I've not seen it, but I know he gets like sidelined. He gets sidelined pretty early on to take him out of commission, but he's still alive. He's
I was wondering,
but yeah, that
could
could
be
be
in the street.
Yeah.
Wait, he shot in the street?
That's what I'm wondering. I'm trying to remember.
I don't. So I've not seen it.
Street? Like, did they really pull it? Oh, wait a minute. If he dies in Phoenix, are you saying that he gets pulled in from there?
No.
Here's
the idea.
Let's pull this amazing actor and character out of these terrible films and pull him into some good ones.
The line in WandaVision is the line is, "I was shot like a chump in the middle of the street," was the line. And I'm trying to tie it back to if what happened in Dark Phoenix.
I never bothered watching Dark Phoenix, but I think he was just kind of like hit with like shrapnel or debris from Sansa Stark going nuts in the same kind of moment that I think takes out Mystique. but that's just like my loose understanding of what I think happened. That's basically like what I think I remember gleaning from Kind of Funny doing, like taking the bullet for the team and watching their in review. But yeah, like I definitely remember seeing that as like that'd be another interesting like crossover element of this. So, again, if something more interesting happens with Evan Peters, I'm all for it, and I'm excited to see it go. And until then, it's just like this epic troll and this epic boner joke, and fine, whatever. A moment that I want to highlight that we haven't really touched on, for me, that really stands out across the series as a whole, was episode 4, the intro to episode 4 of Monica coming back from the blip and like showing that like just really traumatic experience of what that would have been. Because obviously, like, we don't really, like, we see everybody come back into the fight in Endgame, and then we got like it played for laughs in Far From Home, but this was the first time we really saw like boots on the ground, like what a messed up experience that would be, and setting it in a hospital and all that, and seeing like just the chaos going. It was like I echo a ton of people that have kind of shared the same sentiment of like, I would love to see like a what is it, the 100 or whatever the show is, that's out there, the Leftovers, yeah.
Oh, the Leftovers, nice.
That kind of like would examine like people surviving or returning from the blip and that kind of thing. Like that would be that is the Disney Plus show I would really love to see sometime.
There's that
future.
documentary in the Spider-Man movie that they say it. I mean, that'd be great. They just explore it there.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a sequence that certainly like really resonated, and I think episode 4 and episode 8 for me were the standouts because of that. Like as everybody else, I loved all of the retro like sitcoms. I remember tweeting out that first night, like I did not realize how nostalgic I was for Dick Van Dyke and Bewitched and all those like classic, those years and years and years I would stay up watching Nick at Night instead of going to bed. But then when you kind of step away from that construct and focus on the people underneath all of it or outside all of it, that I think was where the show could really, really shine. It was like, and so that's one of the, like, with Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming up, it'll be interesting because obviously it's not going to have that gimmick that WandaVision had to like hang its hat on and draw eyes to it. But it's still going to be, I think, 6 episodes with these characters in, presumably this like antagonistic buddy cop kind of relationship that I'm very excited to explore more and really see, and especially with like what they're going to be grappling with of picking up the mantle of Captain America, who was this larger than life figure in the MCU as well as like the world as a whole kind of thing, and the imposter syndrome that they're undoubtedly going to be feeling as a result of that. So yeah, I'm very excited for all that.
I can't wait for that either, because like after like originally like I love all the whole MCU. I like those characters, but for that show, like my expectations were a little bit lowered. But after like WandaVision, now I'm like, oh man, like, and I know it's not going to have like maybe these like far-reaching impacts, but I'm like, it just is a TV show for what we're going to get. I'm way more excited. I think the action's going to be like good. Like I'm more like, you raised the bar for yourself, and now you need to like meet that higher bar. But I think they will. Like that's like why I'm excited. Like I am, because I think there's going to be better action, more action, and like you said, I'm really excited to see that dynamic explored of them trying to like take over for Cap, and especially because like we got to see. I was just thinking about like the Far From Home thing. Like they do that big memorial for Iron Man, but nobody really talks about like Cap being gone and needing this like big void to be filled by like a new sort of like superhero presence.
Yeah. I see, Mario, you shared the where was Quicksilver in Dark Phoenix, and it seems like it very much was. He got taken out early on in the film because, and admittedly, like it happens in pretty much all the films, he gets sidelined because his power was too immediately over. He is too overpowered in those movies to not be doing everything else that he does. So we touched on a little bit with Josh a while back of like did the show stick the landing, and so I kind of want to circle back to that question. Mario, what did you think in terms of how did the show end up versus expectations versus just the show itself? What did you think?
I very much was in the same train as a lot of people week to week, where I would watch like the Screen Crush video specifically, looking at all the Easter eggs and what they could mean. I was on the Mephisto train for a long bit of it until probably nearing the end. And I think what probably broke me specifically was the astroneer, the person that was creating the vehicle. And when we revealed that was end up just nobody.
Yeah, when everybody's like, "Is it going to be Reed Richards? Is it going to be Victor Von Doom?" And then it's like,
No,
yeah,
just some person.
it's just
I assumed it would be
some
Skrulls,
person.
honestly.
Yeah,
that
I
was
was hoping
my-
like Riri Williams if they have cast that person or not, but you know, in terms of what they could have done there. But overall, I think that they told this story that they were trying to tell. This story about this character succumbing to grief after mass hardship that happened to them, and it's all happened in a span of a week to them specifically. And then for them to go on this journey and the toxicness of what they've done to others and the pollution of your grief, how it can affect other people, I thought was, to me, expertly done within the show. I know that some people have some issues, and I know Sly specifically has some issues with the gaslighting aspects of their relationship with Wanda to Vision, and obviously technically to the town. But overall, I still think that they handle it very well, specifically at the end of the last episode, where Wanda has to come to terms with everyone. And having, by the way, the actress, I forget her name, but she plays Anya from Buffy.
Yeah.
Emma Caulfield.
Yeah.
Emma Caulfield, thank you so much. And I was that line of like, please let my daughter out.
Yeah, that was intense.
Can I just hug her?
Yeah.
I don't care whatever you make her do, whatever role you want. She can be the bully. She can be whatever.
That
I'm
was-
like,
that
oh
was
my
so
god,
good.
like
That was
So
good.
good.
Yeah, so I think they nailed the trauma that she has inflicted on these people, and obviously she doesn't get the resolution with them, which I think is fine. I think that they deserve some time away. They need some separation. But I do understand, obviously, the thing that Wanda had to give up, which was obviously her perfect reality and her relationship. She's technically had to see the Vision die 3 times.
yeah. That's how I
Which
think
is
about that so much during
intense.
this show.
Yeah, it's like he's gonna have to go, but that, but of course you have other Vision or real Vision or whatever you want to call him. I don't want to call him White Vision. That just sounds
Yeah.
weird.
Spectral Vision, I think, is what he's called in the comics.
No, fantastic. But yeah, the fact that still can happen in some aspect and some resolution down the line. I'm just happy that Paul Bettany's still around. And yeah, I think that overall the show lands. Just the unnecessary setup of a multiverse with the teases, I just think are starting to become apparent, especially with even like the J. Jonah Jameson thing. I was like, oh, that's so fun. But then we started devolving into this idea of multiverses and hearing the rumors of, again, all on us, because this is all BS for the most part until it's real. I do think that Kevin Feige and them should really be more and be like, no, that's not happening. But either so.
I want to touch on, in that same vein, there was a lot of people were like, story that went out of control was there's going to be a Luke Skywalker level cameo in this, which was never said in any interview or anything like that. It was somebody asked the question, somebody asked Elizabeth Olsen the question of is there somebody a casting that hasn't leaked yet that you're really excited about or something like that? And she said yes, and this was pre Pietro reveal kind of thing. But the people that wrote that article basically wrote the headline of could there be a Luke Skywalker, theorizing,
And it
clickbaity
blew up
kind of
more
thing.
and more.
And everybody just took that headline and blew it out of proportion.
And I think that's what came,
so it was again that Nintendo Direct level of we shot ourselves in the foot in this, people thinking that this was going to be bigger.
The funny thing about that article thing, when that was said, that was before the Evan Peters thing, and I read that and out to my wife, and I'm like, yeah, Quicksilver is going to be the next episode. That was the one I just pulled. I'm like, and she said why, and I'm like, because it would make sense. And I just assumed it was going to be the MCU Quicksilver, by the way. I just assumed that. And
she can bring people back from the dead, but if she doesn't bring back Pietro, that's just a slight on Aaron Taylor Johnson, really.
So that was my assumption right off the bat from that. My favorite thing about all that, though, is that also led into the expert level trolling, whether intentional or not, of Paul Bettany, saying someone I've wanted to work with my entire career, I get to work with, and I'm just whatever the exact thing was, overwhelmed. And then he later was like, yeah, I was I was just I was talking about myself. It was
Like,
meant
yeah.
to be a tongue-in-cheek joke, and okay.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
so good at that.
he
He's
said,
so
like,
good at
on Good Morning America or whatever, is like they're gonna be
Mhm.
really disappointed when they just discover it's just me. It's just me working with myself.
Yeah. My God. I love that. There's another interview I saw where he's like, "Oh, my favorite actress is Jennifer Connelly," and I was like, "Yeah, you son of a bitch."
Oh, that's so good. He's like, "No, it's your first. What's your first movie crush?"
That's right. That's
And
what it was.
and he goes, Jennifer Connelly in Labyrinth. And like, don't get me wrong, Paul Bettany, like you might have won like the Great War for her heart, but many of us fell in love with her in Labyrinth. So
100%.
like it's not like just some sappy answer. That's a real ass answer.
That's a real ass answer.
That's
Yeah.
a real ass answer right there. Also, like, did my respect for Paul Bettany go up when he said that? Yes. Before I then remembered that he's married to her in real life.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So like, I'm like, oh, I see you're a man of culture as well.
Yeah. Frank, how about you? What'd you think of the show sticking the landing? Yes or no?
For me personally, I think it did. Like, I still think it was a good ending, and like there was a lot of amazing moments in the actual ending that I still think for different characters and different things that happened, and a lot of stuff we touched on. So I think they did. But then on the one hand, like for how hyped up it was, not even necessarily for some of us, but even just for on the internet and everyone else, like I don't think they stuck that landing. And there's arguments you could make of like what they made things they could have maybe done or changed to do that. And I know like we talked about before, like, oh, Reed Richards and Dr. Manhattan or no, got Dr. Doom and then like even with like Magneto and like Professor X and like that's all stuff that would have been like insane. And honestly, even if they just confirmed the Evan Peters thing, I think that would have been crazy too, like we had talked about. But that's why I think like I don't think they lived up to that hype level. But for the actual just talking about it as a show, like I still think they stuck the landing and it was a really good show overall and like a good ending to that of like what they had built up.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Cam?
You know, I'm of two kind of schools of thought. One, if I am the Russian Olympic judge, no, yet it did not. If I want to be like extremely critical and like want to be like a nitpicker about stuff, sure, like yeah, were definite problems that like were shaky, but as just a fan of the MCU, a fan of these like really obscure comic book adaptions being able to like to take their place outside of the monolith that is comic book and comic book fans to the greater general population out there of MCU fans is great. I watched this week to week with my brother-in-law and my sister, and even when I missed a week or I missed a week or two, I missed a week twice, I should say. They were totally willing to like rewatch that earlier episode and then the next episode with me. This was like a full-on sitcom thing in this house, which was awesome. I had such a great time with it. My there's nothing like my 4-year-old niece coming out from another room and being like, "Mom, what are we watching?" And then looking at the screen going, "Ugh, I don't want to watch WandaVision." It's like I'm like, this is it's like it's such a great, wonderful throwback to what is my sister and my childhood of watching these sitcoms. The reason why the Growing Pains episode intro hit so hard was because Growing Pains was like a staple. The reruns on Disney were a staple that we watched in my house growing up, and just it hit hard at several points sitcom wise. It did so much. Like I said, it is the new Winter Soldier for a new status quo of the MCU. I truly believe that. I really hope they pay off on that. Whether or not they fulfill that is open-ended. I don't know if they will or not. I believe they will. But I do think that even though it may not necessarily quote unquote stick its landing, it's not due to it not being good or great. It's because it might have had too much on its shoulders to stick that landing reasonably. But I like personally in my casual like fandom, yeah, I think it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it stuck the landing for what it was setting out to do in telling this story of Wanda's grief and how she's processing it over the course of these 9 episodes. The one little shaky thing apart from the maybe disappointing level of the Quicksilver payoff there at the end is what you touched on, Mario, in that I'm of two minds on Wanda having to deal with the repercussions of her actions, because like it's very much that, like, even what Far From Home did with the blip kind of thing, where it was like this very traumatic thing that all of us are gonna like can write think pieces and talk about and talk ad nauseam about, of like, well, like when people came back, if they were on a flight, what happened, and did they just fall out, and all those kinds of things. The MCU is never going to be able to really delve into all of that, all of those kinds of like the real repercussions of half of the world just kind of coming back, half of all worlds just coming back. It's just too big of a thing to capture in a movie or even in a series like this. And so I think you run the same kind of risk in here of when it becomes like evident pretty early on there of like Wanda has trapped all these people, especially we see it probably most really come to light in that Halloween episode, where you see like the people just kind of like going through their routine because they're locked in there and they can't escape. It's disappointing that she doesn't have to really answer for those crimes, because she is still ostensibly a hero and an Avenger and all that stuff. But I will say that I thought having that scene where Agnes or Agatha is waking everybody up that we touched on, and these people are saying like, I'm not Dottie. My name is Sarah. Please, please just take care of my kids, or Deborah Rupp kind of coming out and saying like, please, if you're not going to set us free, just kill us, just because when we're under, we're suffering your nightmares. We're like, seeing
that hit me hard.
Like that is going to weigh on her infinitely more than any kind of like, hey, we're going to like lock you up in the raft again or something like that ever would. So I think like that is something she has to confront and experience in that scene. And like, for me, ultimately, I'm going to say that's enough, but I can absolutely understand where someone like Sly is coming from, and the gaslighting components and people saying like, no, she was basically a war criminal here and kidnapped and brainwashed an entire town and gets to just walk away from that. That is problematic. Absolutely. But I think, again, like, the fact that we get to see her have to face that and confront the reality of that, and she makes the decision to try and like let all those people free and set them all free at the expense of like losing her family there, and having to watch them be torn apart, certainly like would take its toll on her. So it's like, it's definitely like 6 1/2 dozen the other. Like, talk to me on any day and I'm going to say, yeah, it worked for me versus it didn't. But I think the fact that they at least gave us that scene really helps like make it more of a balanced equation, as opposed to like really being disappointed by the fact that she doesn't have any kind of repercussions in that. But apart from those couple things, I thought, I think it does give a great showcase of these characters, of a story that wouldn't have worked in a film version of it because it would have just been too much in too short a time. So having time to breathe, especially on a week-to-week basis, I think really benefited this show, and does set a great template for what the Disney Plus MCU shows can look like moving forward. Be it in Captain or the Winter Soldier and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Be it in Loki, be it in Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, whatever else comes down the line, like they can, especially for like these more obscure things, they can give the time that they need, that like an audience is going to need more time to get committed and get invested in those things. So I'm very excited for this new era of Marvel making its way back into the TV type of space. So cool. Well, I think if nobody else has any favorite moments or little bits they want to highlight and showcase, I think we can dive into the grading of the show, the series. So from an A+ to F for our report card, what grade would you give this, Mario?
Personally, I think they nailed the majority of what they were going for, with some caveats. Obviously, we've already established my feelings on the negativity in terms of the setup of expectation and the way that they've sort of portrayed it in the show even.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is where I will give it its knock. It's still an A. This show is still an A, but I think it's an A- because of that. Because of those highly overexerted expectations I had going in.
Yeah. How about you, Josh?
I was fortunate for myself that while I watched a lot of like videos, after each episode and stuff like that, that I didn't quite ever really give into the hype, so I was able to keep myself a little more tempered against that. My really only issue with it is with Wanda gaslighting, traumatizing a whole town, and then walking away. But my issue is not with the walking away, because I agree with Trevor's standpoint that like the internalized issues are way worse than any actual physical prison would do, and also what prison could really hold her. It's literally just the fact that she was standing in the town square at the very end walking away, and that's the one issue that not even one person called her a bitch or something. like literally
you're gonna
I
call
thought she was gonna get
you're gonna
jumped.
call her a bitch,
but
you're gonna call her a bitch.
but you know what I'm saying, just like someone
You've
commenting
been in this town for how long? Who knows how long? You're gonna call her a bitch?
Oh, I
after that?
guarantee-
somebody with a dirty look on their face, something more than we saw.
I guarantee Herb is saying under his breath as she flies away, "That Scarlet bitch."
Probably. But so
Also known as Tim Geddes, as they called him the Scarlet Bitch on that episode.
They did indeed, yeah.
I haven't
But-
watched it yet. I gotta watch it now.
so that's my one really like issue I had. But just looking at the show as it was, 8 weeks, my wife and I would every day I would totally still be working if my boss is listening to this, but I would take off work, and pretty much as soon as she got home from dropping the kids at school, 9:30 a.m., I went out there, we watched, like, because I had to watch as soon as possible. My routine of on Saturday nights sitting in bed with my little one, watching the behind the scenes Easter eggs, like all the routines of like classic sitcom stuff, but more so, but to like the Marvel degree, all the little things, the way the show was on my mind, the way that I desperately wanted to be on a podcast to talk about this show for weeks now, all these aspects, and the fact that it really hit all these bells for me, it's an A. It's a clean A. It is damn near for me, just for pure personal reasons, an A+. But it's an A, and I actually think it could go slightly higher with how it unfolds. Cameron's concept about the touchstone aspect, I feel like the score could get raised. How Winter Soldier went for me from an A- and grew over time.
I was about to say, I was like, we don't give out A++s here, man. Like,
I think a couple people for Hamilton did, so so it's certainly possible.
That becomes an S rank at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an S rank.
Frank, how about you?
I definitely agree with a lot of what's already been said. And because I think I kind of went in being like, this sounds like an incredible idea. And I haven't read the source material, but I'm very familiar. And I was like, man, if they can pull this off, this sounds really interesting, but I don't know if they can do it. And at the end, I think they did. And I think because I still think this might be one of the better shows we've ever gotten from Marvel. And that even includes kind of the stuff prior. And it's just engaging, more interesting, and it has bigger effects and ramifications on the universe, and it even takes more of the previous universe into account, and that's a lot of what I like really enjoyed about it, on top of everything we've already kind of like touched on in the rest of the episode here. For me, I think it definitely is an A, and the only other thing I could put on top of that is that that's a grade that Ralph Boner wishes he could ever get.
Cam, how about you?
man, I have to say, I'm going to put an asterisk next to this. I'm going to give it an A. Yeah, I'm going to give it an A. Because if it does what I think it will do, which it will be the cornerstone, touchstone, whatever you would like to phrase it, the gateway towards a even more expansive, deeper universe, it's going to be moved up to an A+. If it does not do that, I will be dropping it down to an A- because how could you not take advantage of this to do that? So there's a bit of a caveat, but really I'm settling at an A in between there because of that. So
apart from that, it is fluid, just like Wanda's magic sometimes when she's having a bad day. Yeah, for me, it's a solid A, with like episodes 4 and 8 in particular shooting to A+ and living comfortably in A+ territory. And if more of the series had been like of that pinnacle, and we'd gotten like just more of that, I think it would be comfortably A+. But apart from that, everything else still phenomenal, great. So yeah, it's A leading to A+ for me. And I think is a great kind of kickoff to this new era of TV. Because I think too, maybe was it your point, Frank? This in terms of like, especially in the context of other MCU TV projects, like thinking back on Daredevil and Jessica Jones and all those. It got to the point that I didn't even ever watch like the Defenders when they all came together, because by the time of like Luke Cage and Iron Fist, I kind of stopped caring. I don't think I ever watched like the last season of Daredevil. I don't think I watched the second season of Jessica Jones. It was just those all had enough filler to them that they didn't. There were like 2 episodes too many in each of those runs, and I thought like WandaVision does a great job. Maybe because of its framework of we're going to tackle each kind of episode with a decade apart from these like episodes that exist out like in the modern day. It gave them such a nice like framework to build towards that they could kind of pace out the story appropriately. And the fact that it benefits from, the streaming nature, doesn't mean it's having to lock into 42 episodes or 42 minutes for like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of show. So they could basically say, hey, this episode's only going to be 28 minutes long because that's all we need for the story we're trying to tell in this moment. I think that was a huge boon to a series like this. So yeah, comfortably an A for me as well. Great. Extra credit, other suggestions that Disney Plus will throw out your way if you like this. Of course, as we all saw every episode, Avengers Age of Ultron is the number one thing they're trying to recommend to you. Also,
No.
Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, Marvel Studio Legends, which is like a new series that they are kind of rolling out basically to tie into all this. It's basically 2 episodes that's just, hey, here's like everything you need to know.
Show.
Exactly. Everything you need to know about Scarlet Witch and Vision from their previous MCU appearances.
Yeah. To be fair, it was actually very useful because I used that to sell someone on to watch this at all.
Mm-hmm.
And they have not seen anything from the MCU.
Nice.
So that's fine. Yeah.
Very cool.
As someone who was looking at it specifically as something that I thought it was going to be like a behind the scenes, like deep dive kind of show,
Mm-hmm.
it was disappointing for the purpose you're saying, Mario. Yes, that is a very good thing. Also, sorry, really quickly, the one trope that we missed from sitcoms that they didn't do that disappoints me, but joke disappoints me. There was no clip show episode of WandaVision.
I
really thought the last episode was going to be a clip show since like episode 5.
Yeah, one of my proudest moments was like almost pitch perfect nailing the episode title for on a very special episode, because it was like that was so clearly like that's what that episode was going for. So I was like, like what's the over under on that being called a very special episode? And then I think Mario, it was you that pointed out like so close. I was like, damn on. But yeah, I was very much thinking that last night, like in the hour or two before the show aired. I was like, we didn't get a clip show, and immediately like my mind rushed back to like a show like Community that really played with the clip show idea of a show where it was like, hey, it's a clip show, but it's stuff you've never seen on the show.
Yeah, you've never seen it before. Yeah.
And I thought that would be, if there had been like one more episode, I think they could have had some fun with that. But it like even that, like the idea that the final episode here was called the series finale, like if Disney ultimately says like, actually, let's do another season of WandaVision, like episode 1 is going to be the reboot, and it's basically going to be like, okay, let's, and it's bringing Wanda with New Vision back together or something like that. So it like I don't think the door's closed on anything, and so maybe we would get deeper dives into something like the clip show for that. But a very fair point. The closest we got to that was like the cutaway gags in the Malcolm in the Middle episode, whereas like thinking back to their childhood in Sokovia or whatever.
Oh my gosh, that moment where they're in Halloween outfits.
And the lady gives them a fish.
He's so good.
Cool fact about that: those kids are not the same kids you see later in the show.
Yeah, one of the theories that I thought would have been really cool if it had panned out this way would have been if the commercial parents had been their parents. And so when in episode 8 we got and saw like what their parents were, I was like, okay, that's like, it would have been cool, but it's perfectly fine that those are just a manifestation of other things she's dealing with and going through. And this is something that I'll give credit to Tim in the Kind of Funny in review that I didn't catch, but they like the dad does like the traditional Sokovian greeting when we see that scene in episode 8 as well. Other suggestions are Captain America: Winter Soldier, Black Panther, and Captain Marvel. And then the two that I will throw out here as like they're not up there yet, but especially to what you were talking about, Josh, is next week we get Assembled, the making of WandaVision. That is going to be that like behind the scenes deep dive probably. As somebody, I know Cam and I really enjoyed the behind the scenes making of The Mandalorian season 1. I expect this to be very much in that same ilk of, you know, cast and crew, like behind the scenes footage, interviews, talking about making it all. I'm very much looking forward to that, especially because it had all those cool things of let's actually film that first episode before a live studio audience and all the you know, the faithfulness to kind of like recreating those classic eras of television was great. And then of course, again, in 2 weeks we get The Falcon and the Winter Soldier for another 6-week span there. That's another thing I'm excited about with these Disney Plus shows is they seem to be saying up front, like, we're only going to use as much time as we need to tell the stories we want to tell. So, like, this was a 9-episode show. The next one's 6 episodes. I don't know how much Loki is planned for, but
another 6
is another 6.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, they're kind of going with a roughly 6 hours
Yeah.
for each season / series kind of thing. However, it's divided up.
Yeah.
Then from there.
But the WandaVision is not the only thing on Disney Plus. So we have this little section of extracurriculars for shouting out anything else anybody's watching on Disney Plus. Anybody have anything else they've been hopping into apart from WandaVision? You've got the Muppet Show out there now. You've got, I know Frank, you've been wanting to do an episode on dinosaurs.
Can't wait to dive into that.
Yeah. Anybody watching anything else, or is it just like I log in, I watch WandaVision 2 or 3 times, and then I go play video games?
I mean, that's my life.
Fair. Josh, do you have anything?
Not really. No, I haven't been doing much Disney Plus stuff. I've had a desire to rewatch Cool Runnings because the anniversary of John Candy's death was recently, like a couple of day or two ago. So I've had that on my mind because I swear we seem to exponentially watch that movie more and more as the years go on for how little I watched it as a kid. But otherwise, nah, I haven't been watching much in the Disney Plus side of things.
Okay. Mario, anything for you?
Oh, yeah. I'm gearing up with the most anticipated series that I'm excited for, and that, of course, is the Mighty Ducks.
Oh, Mighty Ducks? Okay.
The Mighty Ducks.
Oh, that's going to be so good. I'm stoked. Bombay's back, baby. Bombay is back.
Yeah, it's like Cobra Kai, but for Mighty Ducks. I haven't heard about this.
Yeah,
it sounds fantastic, though.
Yeah,
kind of, yeah. So the Mighty Ducks are the bad guys now.
Oh, yeah, okay. Wow, it is Cobra Kai. Yeah, I'm on board. Let's do this.
Bombay has to teach new kids to take down the Mighty Ducks.
The monster that he created back in the day.
Yeah, he's very much the you know, old caretaker kind of role in this one.
Yes.
Yeah, and what the mom from Gilmore Girls is in there as well. That's certainly one that's interesting. I saw somebody tweet out today that was basically like, if you watch one episode a week of High School Musical, the musical, the series, season 1, like it will lead up into season 2. And I was like, that'll be a fun show to get back into when season 2 launches. But yeah, I haven't been watching anything on Disney Plus myself, apart from like I've watched a couple Muppets episodes here and there. But I've been recently watching because of the meme that you mentioned earlier, Josh, going around of like, what sitcoms would you live through if you were WandaVision? I've been I watched a handful of episodes of Scrubs on Amazon Prime, so enjoying like revisiting that series, and it's just, you know, a fun treat to revisit. Cam,
I'm due for a rewatch of that.
Yeah, Cam, anything for you?
No, as echoed earlier, like I'm very much a like we sit down in like the living room, big TV surround sound for WandaVision. We say, oh, that was a great episode of WandaVision. Recently, because it was the last episode, we watched the Marvel Legends getting ready for Falcon and Winter Soldier. But outside of that, no, not really. Not really using the most of it. The only thing I would say is recently we did that D Plus show for what was that show?
Diary of a Future President.
Yeah, that one. I like honestly, if I'm not using it for the D+ show, I'm probably not using it.
That's fair.
Your next ring, you gotta watch Mighty Ducks the animated series where it's 3 anthropomorphized ducks.
Yeah.
And they solve crime apparently on Puck World.
Oh yeah.
They escape Puck World. They're in the middle of a civil war. You think I haven't seen that? Like that I don't have to rewatch that show. It's always playing up here.
100%, right next to SWAT Cats.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
And Biker Mice from Mars.
Never Biker Mice from Mars. That's UPN garbage. Get that out of here. The only thing we accept from UPN are the Japanese imports: Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, and Samurai Pizza Cats. That's it.
All right.
Ultimate Muscle Rocks too. That's Fox.
Well, that is going to do it for this supersized episode of That D+ Show. Thank you, everybody, for joining me to discuss WandaVision. Let's go around the metaphorical table and make any plugs we might have. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to give a shout out to, Cam?
Yeah, I do. I want to give a massive shout out to a friend of the podcast, a friend of all of ours, Alex O'Neill. It was just announced today that he will be on next Friday. He will be guest hosting on Games Daily on Kind of Funny.
Oh, hell yeah.
Want to give a massive shout out, give him props for that. I know that he had an earlier planned guest hosting gig actually being out in San Francisco before the pandemic derailed everything. So this is a small victory to take back from the nastiness that is 2020 and COVID-19. So just a massive shout out to him. He has been putting himself out there for more than a decade. And just finally getting to see him take this next step has been very exciting. Now that it's been announced, I'm very stoked to just promote it and let people out there know. And to quote the immaculate Danny Glover from the film Dirty Grandpa, "Fuck him up, Alf."
Is that why you created that GIF?
Completely unrelated. Completely unrelated. I wanted to use it.
You were just watching Dirty Grandpa and were like, I'm just gonna fit this into everything I can right now.
No, because I wanted to shout somebody out saying like "fuck him up," and I was like, "That's the perfect GIF," and I can't find it anywhere, so I made it, and then it came in like handy today, like the next day, like literally, I was like, it was like a 20-minute side thing that I was like just kind of like wasted a little bit of time making, between my phone and my computer, like putting it all together. No, I did not make it for him, but like it came in handy for sure.
All right, there you go.
Fuck up, Alf.
You can follow Frank at Irrelevant Jokes. Anything you want to give some love, give a shout out to, Frank?
My main thing is just for now would just be That D+ show. I mean, I know people are listening to it right now, but if they want to subscribe, look forward to future episodes, because I do really want to do that episode about dinosaurs with you in the next couple weeks. I need to figure out like what would be good episodes of like what are the best episodes of like dinosaurs.
Yeah,
and we can go back and like relive that. That was a great time in my childhood, at least.
Excellent. You can follow Josh at Bear Punch. Anything you want to give some love to, Josh?
Nothing that's announced, and I don't talk about anything that I represent for work. So just follow me on Twitter and see all the stuff I can talk about there.
Yes, follow at Bear Punch, because there will be future projects out there that are exciting. I've taken part in, so looking forward
Trevor
to
said he's recorded something with me. I'll be announcing that, I think, in this month. So
I can confirm I talked to Trevor right after he recorded it.
Yeah. You can follow Mario at That Mario Rivera, which is like just perfect branding for our whole channel. Every time I go and go into TweetDeck to put our tweets out there, anytime I go in to type in That Nerdy Site or at That Nerdy Site, Mario comes up first. I'm like, God damn it, Mario.
I mean, thank you, Kevin Smith and Trisha Hirschberger, for giving me that idea. So 100%.
There you go.
Yes, you can find me on the net at youtube.com/thatmarioRivera, twitch.tv/thatmarioRivera, and you can definitely find me at youtube.com/PointInProgress, where you'll see a plethora of wonderful people where we talk about the news, we talk about recommendations that we either suggest from each other or from either our guests or our fans as well, people that are interested in the show. And we have a good time over there, some of the spiciest takes that you could possibly do. And then lastly, I think I just want to shout out the 3 places that actually are also hanging out, allowed me to be on their show. They're Around the Monitor, Save Data, and Wannabe Critics, where I ate a chili pepper and talked about My Chemical Romance, and it sucked. But it's awesome video. So when that video comes out, please watch it. I lose my shit while doing it. So
the hottest of hot takes.
Hey, Mario, would you like me to send you a playlist of the only good My Chemical Romance songs?
I hate you. No, please don't do that.
There's
Any of
three.
them on Danger Days, I hate you.
No.
All right. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. I will echo Frank's shout out. Like, thank you to everybody really for tuning into to That D Plus show. This is one of my favorite things that we do on this show, given my lifelong love of Disney and the fact that it, has grown to encapsulate Star Wars and Marvel and all that stuff is just a ton of fun. I look forward to this show each and every week. And I definitely want to try and continue doing episodes like this one, bringing on guests to come on. So if Josh or Mario, if you guys ever have anything out there on Disney Plus that you're excited or interested in checking out, be it the Mighty Ducks reboot, let me know.
I'm gonna watch that now,
and we will work on scheduling that and collaborating to bring people on. You can follow all of the latest from us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all of the latest podcasts from us. All of our Let's Plays go up there as well. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. And if you do feel so inclined, you can always support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. Help kind of keep the podcast feeds going for us. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Thank you, audience, for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and class dismissed.